Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Be Amazing podcast. I'm here today with my friend. We call her Chef Jennie Casselman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I met you, I think we met in June. Was it June?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was June or July. We did a shoot.
This summer.
Mm-hmm. We
We
did
were
a
in
photo
bathing
shoot.
suits.
Yeah.
First time I ever did a photo shoot in a bathing suit.
And you cooked some amazing stuff for us.
Yes.
I know, I remember that. And I was like, and we saw each other. We're like, there was just something there. Like we immediately were like,
It's the blonde connection.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. It's always about the blonde hair.
Yeah, I know. We're drawn to each other.
Yeah. So we immediately connected, and I just, like, the more I talked to you, the more comfortable I felt. Like we just had this connection, and it really didn't even know at the time that it was going to revolve around women, health, nutrition,
right,
all of that. Because we didn't even really talk much about that at that time.
Not that day. No, we hadn't even gotten into it. We were kind of the surface level, like, hey, and fitness was our connection. Food and fitness, nutrition, this was the basics of what we had in common. And then when you told me you were 50, I was like, get out of here.
Right. You made me feel so good because it was right. I think it was like the week before, something like that. Before I was, right before I was turning 50. But I was just so like, taken back by the healthy recipes that you've created, and you've created some cookbooks, and you've tied it all into women's health. And I just fell in love with that. And so that's why you're here today, because I know we're going to get in and talk about that. But before we really dive into the topic, give us a little bit of who Jennie is.
Oh, Jennie's been a lot of things. We were just talking about that. I grew up in a large family in a small southern town. So born and raised in North Carolina. My parents have been married for 52 years. Like we've got that traditional nuclear family. We've got 8 grandkids now, but we still gather around the dinner table every Sunday. My mom still cooks for everybody. What do we have? Like almost 25 of us now. So, I mean, we have a large, immediate family, but that has been something that we grew up with and that we still carry on today, and something that I also want to pass along to my kids. But, I mean, I was just at my parents' house this past Sunday celebrating their birthdays, and we cooked and we sat around the table and we told stories, and now we tell stories about our kids and like when we were kids, and we're like, wow, this has come full circle. But I'm a family person at the end of the day. Like, that's my priority. I have 7-year-old twins, and they require a lot of my time and attention right now. So that's always going to be my first priority. And also taking care of myself. So house and home, that always comes along with the territory. But I've most recently, I'd say in the last year and a half, in the last few years, I've really started focusing more on my own personal health, because I watched it deteriorate pretty rapidly during my pregnancy. I had a very rough twin pregnancy, an even rougher delivery and labor process, which I won't spare you the details, but let's just say it was traumatic. And so I watched myself just kind of disappear. And it was emotional. It was sad. I'm like getting choked up thinking about it now, because I remember like looking in the mirror and not recognizing myself. And it was very sad. But I'm a doer. I'm an action taker. And so I told myself, like, you're going to get past this. You're going to be a better version of yourself, because we've been through all of this. What's that saying now? They say, oh, you don't look like what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
There. Try not to wear my scars on the outside, but it took a lot of work to be able to get to that point. So at the end of the day, it's all about like family and your own personal self, because you still matter. Like you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur. Like we wear so many hats. Like I joke with my husband all the time, and I'm like, I guarantee you, I've had more thoughts that have passed through my mind by 8 a.m. than you probably do all day. And he was like, yeah, I don't really think about much. And I'm like, how? How do you not think about much? Like, by the time my feet hit the floor, I'm like, okay, breakfast, clothes, get the kids dressed. Do we do the homework? I don't remember. Let me go check, like now we got to get to school. Got 2 minutes to get in the car, out the door. And then I start thinking about my day. So it all revolves around family. It always has, and it always will for me.
That's like, I just think like going back to everything that you're talking about, And I probably, this is why we're more connected than you realize, or than I even realized. Like, I had not heard you mentioned your story, kind of what you've been through. I had the similar response, because bringing this all to like women's health, which is why we're why we're connected. And what has brought us together is that it's a real feeling of being trapped in a body you don't know, being trapped in something that you can't even put it into words.
No,
how you feel, like you can't even articulate it.
No, you can't. And I was so caught up with taking care of newborn babies that it didn't matter. I didn't matter at that point, because I was on call 24/7, and my daughter had some medical issues, so she came home. So I was literally like a home nurse, a mommy, and just trying to survive. Like, from the minute we woke, we didn't really sleep. We got like cat naps for years. So I don't think I even slept till my kids were almost 3 years old, like through the night. You lay down in the bed and I was in that fight or flight stage for so long, because I knew that as soon as I heard a cry, or I was right back up. And so I didn't relax. I don't think I started relaxing. I still have a hard time relaxing. And that was probably like in the last year and a half or 2 years, managing my hormones a little bit better. So,
and I think that's a big thing to say, is like your hormones have everything to do with how you feel. Yeah. And it has everything to do. So if you're a woman out there and you are struggling with like identity, or you're struggling with this body, like what happened? Because even with me being in fitness, and fitness has been my entire life, competing, all of it, like watching my food, workouts, getting all that in. When I hit perimenopause at 36, what my body went through, like, I couldn't express to anyone. Like, I would go to the gym in double sweatsuits with the sweat bag on, and I would be on the climb mill, literally trying to sweat off all of the like extra weight I was carrying. My hair, I lost my hair. I had acne. I would sweat. I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember going to church one time, and it was like January, middle of winter. And I was sweating profusely with my Jeep windows out. I was a rental car at the time. So Jeep windows are out. I'm rolled up.
Snowing.
Right. And I'm just like, somebody help. And I get there, and I remember my friend's dad was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. But there was nothing I could say. Like, at the time.
That reaction to when people say, are you okay? And you actually respond, no, I'm not. Nobody knows how to respond to that.
Right.
I was like, Mommy, my husband he can know that I'm not okay and go, are you okay? And it's almost like, well, let's just tread lightly here. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And it's like, oh, well, you were just supposed to lie and say you're fine.
Right.
Right? Because that's what we do. That's what women do. We say, yeah, we're okay. We're fine. But read between the lines. Fine is not fine.
Right. And I think that's the expectation too. It's like, I feel like with women, if you're a mom and you have a career and you have all these things, like, for you to actually say, no, I'm not good. I'm not in a good place right now. Like, that would throw people off. Like, what do you mean? Like,
well, I'm going to need you to get back to that good, because you handle everything.
Right.
Literally, I dropped the kids off for school this morning, and my son was like, are you coming to pick us up? And I'm like, yeah. Because I told him, I was like, I'm going to go do a podcast, and Mommy's got some work. And, well, are you going to come pick us up? I said, yeah, I'll be right back to do that as well. And then we'll do homework and snacks and carry right along. It's like everybody gets used to, a lot of times, a mom, especially when you're type A and you're a go-getter and a do-it kind of person, to handle it all the time. And then when that hits, like, I don't know, we're talking about physical symptoms, but also mental. Oh, yeah. Like the mental fog. Oh, my God. Like, I can be in the middle of a sentence and like, where was I going with that thought? I completely lose my train of thought. If I don't write things down now, it's just forgotten a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so it gets hard to manage all of your different roles when you're not a clear mind, and you're sleeping like crap. You don't feel good. And so you get up and dress this body that you're not even familiar with, and your mind's not there, and physically you don't feel there. So it's like, you're just dragging yourself through. I call it the weekend at Bernie's syndrome. Like you're just dragging yourself through life. You're like, I'm showing up because I'm supposed to be here. I'm making your dinner. It's not going to be that great tonight because I'm barely alive. And,
but I'm here.
But you just keep going until you're completely burnt out. And that's unfortunately, that's kind of what happened to me several times. Because I didn't put my health and my wellness as a top priority.
So with that, let's talk about when did you finally make that decision where you knew I've got to get back to me, or I've got to figure out how to even work with the me that I am now. Mm-hmm. So what was it for you?
It took me, I was multitasking. Clearly, I had 2 children at one time. So I'd had the twins. I still had a corporate job at that point. So I went back to work, and my daughter had been in the NICU for 3 months, and she had just came home the week before my maternity leave was up. And we had great insurance. So in my head, I'm like, I'm not quitting. I'm going back and we'll figure it out. And so I was literally feeding my daughter with her feeding tube, listening to webinars and taking notes and trying to do my job and trying to raise infants at the same time. And thank God COVID, they furloughed a bunch of people, and I was one of those people that they let go, and I was totally fine with it because I knew my time was up in that area and I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning anything. I was just doing to keep the ball rolling. And so I had about 6 months after that job ended, because I spent 11 years in corporate America. So that was what I did. That was who I was. I was a Chef Jennie. I was a desk chef. They didn't let me in the kitchen at corporate. You don't want to go in there. So I came from an atmosphere of people kind of telling me what I didn't want to do and what I didn't intend on. Oh, you don't want to be back there. You don't want to really do that. That's a lot of hard work, blah, blah, blah. And I listened to all these people. And then I got the opportunity to work with a fitness group, to do cooking classes. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to teach people. I want to share what it is that I really love. And so I started putting fitness in every day, part of my routine, developed the self-discipline that I had lost completely because I gave myself completely to my family, and started making my health and wellness a priority by working out and watching what I ate. It also helped me get my drinking under control. I was a boozy mama. That was what everybody did, right? You look on social media, it's here's your mommy juice. Here's this. And every day at 5 o'clock, I was I was a White Claw girl. Is there a White Claw or red wine? But as soon as I heard my husband open the garage door, I was like, screw it, my turn. And that was when I was like, you take the kids. I'm going to sit here with my alcohol, and I'm going to drink, and I'm going to cook dinner. And that was my escape. Until I realized that it was a problem. It was too much of an escape. Mm-hmm. So, recognizing that and taking some things off of my plate, getting rid of that full-time corporate job, really helped me to see you matter, mm-hmm. and you got to take care of yourself. Because insurance is great, the salary is great, but if you're not okay, if you're not well, and you're not taking care of yourself, your family is not going to benefit from the broken pieces that are left behind. So that was my first moment of get your shit together, take care of yourself.
There's so much truth in that, and you were just talking about the taking care of yourself part, and you have all these other things in place that, like you said, make it seem perfect. And I'm going to get, why would I walk away from that? Or why would I let go of that? But you're running yourself in the ground, mm-hmm. doing it. And then you're creating other issues for yourself. Yeah. Because you're trying to escape all the things that you have. And it's when that light bulb goes off and you're like, wait a second. And then I could actually do something that lights me up.
Yeah. So, oh, wow. I can get paid to do something that I like. That I was doing them from home. A lot of social online based jobs now, you can do it just about anywhere. So I didn't have to leave my family. And that really just opened up the door for all of the social media content creation and teaching and online, because that was still in the height of COVID. So nobody's leaving the house. And I'm like, what else can I do from home? What else can I do to create who I want to be and this business that I want to do. And at the time, I had no desire to do my own thing. I was still just riding someone else's coattails, taking their vision and busting my tail and giving all of my energy into someone else's vision. And I did that my whole career. I mean, that's what you do when you work in corporate America. That's what you do when you work for someone else's business. You help their dreams come true. And I was like, wait a damn minute. Like, I do a good job at what I do. And I'm pouring so much in to somebody else. And it's not reciprocated, paycheck here, paycheck there. But that was kind of when I had to let myself also, that was another point. You got to just walk away sometimes and not wait until they leave or they say it's time for you to go. Like, you just have to be able to say to yourself, it is time for me to go. I'm fed up. I'm done with the nonsense. I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to leave before I get left. And that was something that I'd never done until this past year. I always just kind of let situations die out because I didn't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the bad guy. You don't want to be the person that leaves a person, a relationship, a job. I never wanted to be that person because I wanted to be dependable. But at this point in my life, I've done a lot of work mentally and a lot of mindset adjusting and saw myself a little bit differently for the first time and thought, no, you can do this and you are going to do this because you deserve to. And kind of gave me the guts to send that email and say, I'm out.
And look at where you are now. Now, like, I've seen you've like bursted back onto the scene. You've got cookbooks. You are speaking. You are like just wide open, able to be yourself fully and not governed by anybody.
Hallelujah.
And that's amazing. Like,
I need a t-shirt that says not governed by anybody.
Right.
Yes.
But I think there's so much just in this whole, like, when you kind of look at everything, you go from being this person that didn't even feel like you were yourself. You're trapped in a body you don't know. You're trapped in like this world that has been created for you in a sense, because that's what it does when you're locked into a job or you're just going through the motions. 2 children, family, all of that. And now look at you now, and it just goes to show that, like, we can take our lives back. We can change it any moment at any time.
Absolutely.
We can empower ourselves to say, enough's enough. Like, I care about myself because if I care about myself, that is going to affect your family.
Oh,
so have you seen a big difference in your kids and your husband?
Absolutely. So I started on my physical wellness like 3-4 years ago. That's when I really put nutrition and fitness in the forefront. And then the last year or so, I really started working on the mental piece because I never thought, I don't need therapy. I was like, I'm not crazy. I'm a little bit crazy, but not like crazy. Like, you need therapy. And I always thought you had to be like out of your mind to have therapy or any type of modalities like that. But I've really been digging deep into the healing process. I've done Reiki. I've done therapy. I've been just doing more mindful things for myself and getting to know me as a 42-year-old woman instead of that little girl or the mom or the friend, just me. And so I think really focusing on my mental health has helped me to evolve so much that I'm even surprised sometimes. I'm like, this is my day. Like, my husband will say, well, what do you got to do today? I'm like, I've got to photo shoot this, and then we're going to speak here. We got a podcast here. And I say these things, and he's just like, cool. And I'm like, you're right. That is cool. I'm doing this. Like, this is, and it just keeps happening. And I think when you finally settle into your 100% authentic you, and you're not afraid to put yourself out there, your confidence shines because you just know who you are, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says about it, then the door's just open. That's kind of where I find myself now, is I'm getting in alignment with where I belong and who I belong with, and the opportunities just keep coming because of that.
And two, like, it's going at those, or taking those moments and closing the doors. Cause I've been through similar path where I've been used to always teaming up with somebody, always having someone, always like I'm always doing it with someone. And it's
a safety net.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it's because you have like this imposter or syndrome or like what they say, or insecurity of like, can I stand to do this alone?
I totally still have imposter syndrome and I'm doing it. I am doing it. And I still second guess myself. You know, like last week I was a speaker on a panel and I thought, are they really going to hear what I have to say? Like, and then people were like, yes, actually we do. Like, it's very empowering. It's very informative. It's raw. It's real. And like people feel that way and they can relate. And that's what I want more than anything, is just to say, like, you know, I've been through the trenches and back out, and you can overcome. You can choose to overcome the mindset, the physical restrictions, the obstacles, the jobs, like whatever it is. You can choose to overcome that, or you can choose to stay stuck. And I mean, heck, I tell my kids that now. They're 7 years old. And I'm like, it's your choice. Do you want to have a bad day for the rest of the day? Because we got 5 more hours left. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, then scroll past that thought, find a new one, and keep it moving. They're like, I don't know how to. And I'm like, you literally have to change your mind. You change your mind, and that can change your life. So that's, I mean, I'm hoping to instill that in my children before they're my age and just figure it out. But it's been life-changing.
That's everything. Everything is about what you think on, because it starts in your mind, which you were talking about mental health. So there's all these pieces to health. It's not just the physical. It's the mental. It's the nutrition. It's the emotional. It's the physical. Like, there's all different pieces that form us as humans. And if we neglect one of them, it can throw everything off. So that's what I love, like, that we're talking about, because mental health is huge, because everything starts there. So what you think on, what you are taking in, what you are listening to, who you're listening to, all of that plays a huge role in really evolving as a person. And then you take the nutrition part, and then you take the physical part. And if you can spend some time in each of those areas, that's what really will help create that overall well-being, not just wellness, but well-being.
Yes. And that's what we really aim for. Like, who doesn't want peace? You know, like, I spent my life looking for that inner peace, and I didn't know where to find it. I didn't know if it was me. I didn't know what it was. And it was me. It was in my head. And it was what I had chosen to believe about myself, or the lack thereof. And now that I've made those adjustments around my own belief systems and my mindset, like, everything else, somebody doesn't like me, I'm okay with that now. I used to be like people pleaser. I would bend over backwards. I would do things out of my own comfort and out of my wallet, out of everything, just because I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that for you. Because I thought that helped me earn respect. Well, it doesn't.
No, and I have a degree in people pleasing.
Yeah. Well, I'm then retired, so now it's really hard. Everybody's like, oh, you seem so much lighter and more confident and comfortable. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of stopped giving a shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? That's it? I'm like, yeah. It's a huge part from where I was personally, and the people pleasing, to just being like,
it's what it's look out for yourself. I think that's what I've learned too. Is like, you have to
have so much more peace.
And you have to say no. Like, you have to look at it, and you do have to look at, okay, so if I do say yes to this, like, yes, I want to help people. Yes, I want to be there. But you have to look at, like, it being a give. Because I'm real big on that now, where before it would just be like, I'll just empty my tank and not worry about refilling it. I'll just give everything I have. And then I find myself completely empty and alone. And so now it's like, I'm very strategic now where my give goes, because I'm looking for the people and the opportunities that I feel like it's, it works together. And there's like this, it's like being on a tennis court. If I hit the ball and I know you're going to hit it back, girl, I'm all in. Like, let's go. But if I'm the one that's standing there and I'm hitting the ball and there's nothing, and I'm like, there's nothing. They're just like, they're just waiting for me to keep hitting it across. Like,
that's corporate America. That's working for someone else. Like, you are literally just sitting there and hitting the tennis ball up against the wall, and they're like, until they give you the next thing to work on, And so, that was a huge pivotal moment. Once I started recognizing that, you know what, I can say no. I can reserve my energy for my best yeses. And that's where I'm at this year. I was like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
I love that.
I'm not doing anything.
Steal that one.
Do it. Because that's if it doesn't make you excited.
Yeah.
The person, like when you reach out, I'm like, yeah, love her. Yes. I mean, anything like that, and it's hard for me to still say no because I up and coming, as a new entrepreneur, like you feel like you have to take advantage of every situation that comes your way. But I was doing that. And then I was so drained and I'm like, oh my gosh, look, I spent this much money being a part of all these other people's ideas and I didn't make any money doing it. Right. So that was my big mistake when I first started. So I think balancing out where is this going to benefit me and how is it going to benefit me? And a lot of times it's just nurturing relationships and networking. And no, you don't get paid to do that, but that's such a huge role. And what I've found too in being successful is the connections that I make and maintaining those connections,
and finding the right one. So it's creating those communities or being part of those communities that you feel like it's worth the time, because it takes time to do the networking. It takes time to reach out. It takes time to do stuff like what we're doing today, which is a podcast. And then y'all later, she's going to be cooking, which I'm so excited, or sharing a prepared meal. So I can't wait. But it's taking time and knowing that like what you're investing in is going to not just dead end.
Right.
You're sowing seed that's going to you don't know where it's going to go, but it's worth the time that you're investing because there'll be something down the road that comes from it.
And I tell myself too, I'm doing it with heart and good intention. So I know that the seeds that I'm sowing, no matter who it's with or where it is based out of my own good intentions and positivity. And that's where I know, and I know in my heart that it'll reap a harvest, whether it's today, tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now. I know that I'm stepping intentionally into every situation that I'm being a part of. And that's what really gives me that peace of mind of like, this is where you're on the right path.
And your light shines. Like, I think that was the other thing that drew me towards you, because everything that you're saying resonates with me. And it's that genuine, gratitude, that genuine, like giving heart, that genuineness and the sincerity behind it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times those things can be said, but they're not demonstrated and they're not seen.
Oh, yeah. And in business, well, I mean, that is, I'm sure you've worked with plenty of men in business and they have a really easy time saying, it's just business. Let me hurt your feelings. Let me fire you. Let me take money out of your pocket. Let me put you on a project that you don't want to be on. Let me take you off of this. It's just business. And to me, it's not just business. My business is not just business. It's me. It's my life. It's my personal everything. I'm giving my energy, my creativeness. I'm giving my ideas. That's me. Does it turn into business? Yeah. But to me, business is personal. So I had to take those reins myself because I've heard that so many times that it's just a joke to me now. It's like, yeah, it's just business. No,
it's very personal.
Yeah, it is.
Every gem I design, every developer I work with, every, for those that you don't know, like that's what I do for my full time is I design and outfit gems for multifamily. And every project is not just me putting equipment in like, okay, well, here's your quote. I'm like, I'm invested. Like some of them are like 2 and 3 years. So I'm like completely invested. So, and I have heard at times there'll be people that just look at it like furniture and they're like, oh, just move this and move that. And then in my heart, I'm like, but like there was so much thought and attention that went in that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I totally understand. Like cooking is the same way.
Oh, I think cooking and feeding people to me is like the ultimate, like sharing love and showing somebody that you love and respect them. So I'm a gift giver. That's my love language. And also my daughter's, so she's expensive, but like feeding people and taking care of people is just genuinely like what makes me happy. And I can't think of anything better than to do it on a bigger, broader scale. I can go and cook for people individually, like all over the country, but creating the cookbooks and doing the resources and content creation, just sharing like what I know and knowing now I get feedback now that I'm like, oh, this recipe was so good, or my husband liked this, my kids like this. that's the real compliment. That's your reviews. And that's when you feel successful. When people are like, you made my life easier because of ABC, or you shared this and it made me inspired to go and try something new. So I'll never stop pouring out my heart, because if it can help one person, like whatever area, like I talk a lot, I've had a lot of random life experiences. I'm very colorful past. So if anything that I've been through the hard way, because that's just my personality, like I got to learn it myself, can help someone else like take that step forward to try something new, or just roll the dice on themselves and take a risk. And that's that. I'll keep talking. I'll keep screaming from the mountaintops. Like that's what I want to do.
Well, it's so inspiring. And it really, like you talking about your cookbook, you have a tagline, healthy and delicious. So yes. I want to dive into that, especially with women's health, and talking about you've come up with recipes and things that to help women that are in perimenopause, menopause, like in that struggle time, which a lot of times it's in 40s. I started my journey when I was 36. I'm 50 now. So it's been this all through my 40s.
I don't know if I can last that long.
But you have come up with like just some helpful recipes and things to help women that are in that place right now and struggling because what they've done before is not working now. Yeah. How they're eating is definitely like the feelings, they may not feel good after what they're eating, what they've been eating this whole time. So there's like some new things. And you also have a background in nutrition coaching, which I think is like really amazing that you've combined that, and then you're a chef. So it's just kind of like, this is awesome. So give us a little bit of like, what does that look like for somebody that is trying to create that healthy and delicious for being in this like crazy hormonal state?
Yeah. Well, I did the work for you, so you don't have to figure it out. But when I went to culinary school, I knew I didn't want to, I wanted to focus on nutrition, but I didn't want to be a dietitian because I didn't want to just tell somebody, you need this and this and this and this many calories a day. Good luck. Because that's kind of how it works. And I wanted to show people how to do it for yourself. So the name of my cookbook that I just put out for hormone balancing is called Empower Wellness, because guess what? Like you have to do it for yourself. And so I want to teach and empower women so you can take control of your health and wellness. And here are 30 easy recipes that you can do to help navigate some of this, hormone balancing issues. But I really just want to teach people how to cook for themselves, because I think a lot of women, or just people in general, men too, just write it off like, I'm just not a good cook. Well, do you practice? I wasn't a good cook. I mean, I didn't even want to touch raw hamburger meat. Like the first time I made hamburgers, they were like hamburger balls because I did not want to. I was like, patty? No, I was just like, and threw it in the pan. I mean, like I lived with my sister at the time. So she was like, no, let's just hang this up. So you have to practice. And that's what I try to keep them really simple and concise and not too many steps so that it's easy for home cooks.
See, she's speaking my language because it needs to be simple.
Girl, even now, if I open up a cookbook or a recipe and there's like 25, 30 ingredients, I'm like, no, let's flip it. Because I'm not into it. And I have a pretty solid pantry and spice drawer as a chef, but most people don't. And so I'm not trying to teach other chefs how to do their job. I'm trying to teach women, home cooks, parents, like how to do a little bit better at home in their own kitchens. And so speaking of doing what you always did and not working anymore, that was me back in December, January. And I gained like 14, 15 pounds out of nowhere. I'm like, what? I'm working out 6 days a week. I'm doing 45 minutes to an hour of cardio. I'm riding my bike like Seabiscuit. Like I was on it. I was still eating clean. We have a lot of food allergies in our family. So we've been gluten-free, dairy-free for years now. And I'm like, why isn't this working anymore? And I started getting really irritable. It was the night sweats and not sleeping. The insomnia and night sweats, I was like, I don't have time for this. And so that's when I reached out to a nurse practitioner that I'd met, Lindsay Simone, and she's local, Simone Medical. And she was like, let's get some blood work done. She was like, what you're telling me, I think sounds like perimenopause, but let's do some blood work and see where you're at. And sure enough, my hormones were like way high, way low, all over the map, but they were certainly not normal. So I was like, well, at least now I have an explanation.
Yeah, because then you don't feel crazy, because that's what happened to me. I remember going to the doctor's office and I remember sitting there and I'm like, there's something wrong. And there's something wrong with me. Like, I don't know what it is. I work, like you said, I work out. I have eaten clean. I went back to my old school competitive diet. Like I was on it, like
doing everything,
doing all the things. And she was like, no, you're fine. I'm like, not fine. No, I need, and sometimes you have to fight for it. I need my blood work taken. Yeah. And we sat there and I was like, I'm not leaving here until you do it.
And I think that is a common misconception too, is a lot of women get told they're fine. And okay, maybe I'm fine-ish, but I'm not optimal. Like, this is not okay with me. I was uncomfortable in my own skin again. And I had just gotten into that, like, this is me, this is Jennie again. And so I felt right back into that mindset of like, oh, I can't talk about fitness and health and nutrition if I look like this, if I look like I'm overweight. And so I'm like, nobody's going to believe me. Like, it spiraled. And then whenever I recognized that, yes, it was, in fact, my hormones were so out of whack. And I think a lot of it had to do with lifestyle and just not bad habits, but maybe some habits that were perceived to be healthy that maybe lasted a little too long. I was fasting a lot. I was drinking coffee on an empty stomach before I was working out. So hello, cortisol, like that jacked it up first thing in the morning. And then my life keeps me jacked up anyway. And so I just was literally back in that fight or flight stage again, and getting my hormones in line. We talked about nutrition. So that was one thing. And Lindsay is integrative. This is an integrative medicine. A lot of times, like your traditional doctor is going to say, hey, you fall within the range, you're fine. You're normal. This is fine. And you know that it's not, because it's your body. And so you have to be your own health advocate. And that's why I really just want to empower women. Like, you have to ask the questions, and it might take going to someone else. You know?
That's what I did. I ended up going to Dr. Liz in Charlotte and found her through Community Connection, because we had done Dancing with the Stars for Carolina Veterans, met her there, and then went into her office and was like, here's the deal. And she was like, Cel, she's like, you're in, like, she was just straight up like, yeah, you're in the middle of it. Yeah. And then she was running other blood tests. But the biggest thing I would say is, like, she listened to me.
Yes. Exactly. And that's what all you need sometimes is someone to hear you and say, you're not alone. You're not crazy. Because I think a lot of times as moms, you're like, it's life, it's kids. You're like, maybe I have finally lost my mind. Because I jokingly would like tell my husband, like, this is whenever you will need to get a straitjacket. Like, this is me on my way to a mental breaky. Like, this is happening. But now I don't feel that way. But I totally felt like I was losing my mind. I had no patience. I was super irritable. And I was like, okay. So I was like, it's the caffeine. I got to cut the coffee out. So I stopped drinking coffee altogether, cold turkey, and started doing the mushroom coffee. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't feel as crazy. That makes me feel a little more balanced. And it has all the nootropics in it, so it makes you feel good. It was helping with my mental clarity and my focus, because I'm just ADD by nature. But if I had that on top of brain fog and sleepless nights, then it was just a mess up here. So getting the hormones balanced and then working on the nutrition to match the work that I was also doing. So my levels were out of whack, but and it can look different for everybody. Your estrogen can be low. Mine was super high, like first trimester pregnancy high. So that was why I was really irritable.
And see, mine was the opposite. Mine had bottomed out. I had nothing. So it just shows you, like, how quickly, like, for each of us, it's different,
and how it can change. And that's why there's not necessarily one size fits all. I've had lots of women say, what supplements are you taking? What are you taking? Well, I'm taking a lot, but it's to balance out what I had out of whack. So it's really important to get that baseline to know what you're working with, first of all, and then move into, like, the nutrition piece as well. So as an overarching theme when it comes to menopause, perimenopause, hormone balancing in general for men and women, a lot of times is the protein. We're lacking the protein and fiber. So the fiber is really important, especially for me. So for my situation, I was jacked up estrogen through the roof. So that helps you to naturally detox the estrogen. So raw veggies. So I have this raw carrot salad that I eat at least 3 or 4 times a week. I just keep it prepped and eat that with my meals. And that just helps to naturally detox out that extra estrogen from your system. But giving your body the extra protein, especially when it comes to like skin, hair, and nails, a lot of times hair loss during perimenopause and things like that, that also helps to supplement where you might be lacking. And I think just in general, women don't eat enough protein. I know I wasn't. I came from a world of, I just want to be skinny. I'm just going to eat salads and some grilled chicken. And so I was eating I had such a restrictive diet because of that mindset that I was not eating near enough. I was at a severe calorie deficit for years. And so that's only going to wreck your other adrenals and things like that. So I had adrenal fatigue as well. So that was something that I'm working on balancing out. But also eliminating alcohol, which is something I never in a million years. I'm a party girl. Like that's just, I love being a party girl. My husband still tell you, even after we got married, I was still doing my girls' nights, girls' trips. I just love to have a good time. I like to drink and dance. But then I was like, this is very counterproductive. Let me work so hard on my nutrition and fitness and mental health and then drink alcohol. Because then I was like, this is kind of just resetting the clock every time. And so you're into fitness and nutrition, so you know that your body, like your liver, cannot process alcohol and fat at the same time.
Right. And it takes a while. Like if you start drinking or alcohol, that was a big thing in my background. It's like, I actually stayed away from it because I was always afraid from the time I was in my 20s, a freshman 15. So I just stayed away from it, period. I was like, it was going to make me gain weight. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm out.
Yeah.
So, but I had other things that I leaned into, but it is that thing of like where women always ask that question because it's like, they don't just have a glass of wine. They have a bottle of wine a night and not realizing like that's a big, that can be a big thing to sabotage and hold you back from where you're wanting to go.
It completely is sabotage. It is self-sabotage. And then I think we do it because it makes us feel good in the moment. But then you don't feel good the next day. I mean, I got to the point where every time I drank red wine, I was sleeping like crap. I mean, I was tossing and turning, and then I'd wake up with a headache. So I'm like, oh my God, goodness. Like I was already not sleeping because of like the hot flashes and insomnia. So cutting that out was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And I still think people are getting used to like me. But I recognize too that I used to think the alcohol made me more fun and made me more relaxed. And I was like, yeah, good time, Jennie. Let's have a couple White Claws. Let's go have a good time. But then I started to like myself just for me. Then I'm like, I don't need that to be fun. I don't need that to be happy. And I actually recognize that I'm more happy now without it. So I wouldn't say I'm completely sober. Like I had a glass of champagne last week and
like here and there, like adding, and that's the thing when we're talking about restrictive dieting, because I think as women, that's something that we've all experienced, maybe are experiencing now, maybe in the trenches of it because we don't know what else
it's very cultural to diet.
So what would so a woman, you said in your cookbook, there's like 30 recipes. So is there like, in those 30 recipes, is there like something that you could get into as far as a plan of like, if I stayed with these recipes for a certain amount of time, what do you feel like women will experience?
I think they'll experience freedom in food because we have gotten so scared of carbohydrates because we think they're going to make us fat. And yes, there is a lot of crappy food-like substances out on the market right now. And you will hear me, I will say it. And I will always back that. It's been something that I've been very passionate about for years because my children, they don't eat kids' food. They don't get it. I don't buy it. We're not eating the Fruit Loops because guess what? Now they're finally recognizing and saying that actually, yeah, this is bad for you. This is not healthy. So Whole Foods is like you eat how it's grown, the most original type food is what you want to fill yourself with. And, whole grains, healthy fats, complex carbs. And I always say like, if you have to go to the interior part of the grocery store and you have to open your food out of 2 or 3 different packages to get to it, you don't need to do that. Like, we don't want something that's shelf stable for eternity because guess what? That's doing to the inside of your body. Like, we don't need shelf stable in here. So everything, all of my recipes are always full of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, complex carbs. And so I think I do have some one-on-one clients that I've started working with and talking about food. They're just like, can I eat this? I'm like, yes, yes, you can. And it's not like this rapid weight loss. It's a nice, slow, sustainable weight loss of 1 to 2 pounds a week, but you're eating 3 meals a day. We're not starving ourselves. We're not fasting for 18 hours. You are eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a snack if you need to get in the extra protein. And so that's what we really focus on, meeting those macros. And then you get your micronutrients with all your fresh fruits and vegetables, which are lacking. And it also has a huge impact on your mental health. So like your gut health and the mental health, you need those micronutrients. So, the keto, the Atkins, all these, like, just eat a burger with cheese and bacon every day. And I'm like, oh my God, what are your arteries going to look like when you get done with this? Like, hopefully you saved enough money on your vegetables where you can pay for your heart attack later. But that is just, it's real food. It's not super complicated.
And I think that's probably a lot of it is we get into it and we make things a lot more complicated than what they need to be.
Yeah.
So I think really having like a recipe book that's going to be simple and you can piece all these things together, and it can be something that you can do and not be stressed out.
Yes.
I know for me that I lean a lot into Home Chef for my husband because it keeps things like interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like, I'll look
it's
up
hard
things
to get creative in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, I even stop being creative sometimes.
Well, and I'll look up things online and that kind of thing. But knowing that, like, this is like created for health and like, and my husband can enjoy it. If you have kids, they can enjoy it. I can enjoy it and not feeling restricted. So I think that's really like, I love this so much. And tell us again, what about the cookbook? Where can they get it? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so the name of the cookbook is Empower Wellness. It's a hormone balancing cookbook. So it is for men and women. My main demographic that I speak to are us, me, women, 35 to 55. So that's typically like who I talk to. It's on my website, chefjennie.com or chefjenniecasselman.com. And it's got 30 recipes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all the macros. Protein is counted out for you. There's not a recipe in there. I think the lowest might be 25, 28 grams of protein. So you can easily meet your goals by using the breakfast, lunch, and dinner recipes in the book. There's a lot of variety as well as vegan options. So I know it's really hard for people that are vegan to come up with a variety, and it's not just like the fake soy-based products or the tempeh. Like, I try to avoid the processed, I can't even remember the name of the product, but like the beef crumbles, the chicken with an X. And I'm like, no, like, I want real food. I don't want manufactured products that are sold as food. So, I think it's a great variety in there. And it's a super helpful resource, but, I have a hormone bundle that also talks about lifestyle choices too. So like, what things are you doing in your life that are kind of wrecking your hormones as well? So there's so many things, just environmentally. If you look around the room, I'm sure there's toxins and chemicals in the sofa, in the it's surrounding us, but little changes to your lifestyle, the equipment that you use in your kitchen, trading out, and everybody loves a good old nonstick pan, but trading out that Teflon, which is highly toxic, to stainless steel and cast iron, like that's much better for your health in the long run as well. And then I've included some circadian rhythm tips on how to help our bodies to naturally get into that restful zone. Magnesium is huge. I do magnesium beverages at night now, and that's my wind down time. So it is a bundle that's all encompassing. It's nutrition, it's lifestyle, and it's, God, we need sleep. The sleep is so important.
Yes, it is. And this for me right now is like, I can't even say how much I love all of this because it's so important. And then talking about women and the fitness part and the protein, here's the fitness side. Women, we need to lift. Lift. Weights are so important, and more important now, like if you're in your 40s, if you haven't lifted up to this point, like it's okay to start now. Like you don't have to wait, but the weight and then what you're doing with nutrition is like so key for hormone health, for well-being.
Yeah. And I think the common misconception with when a woman hears protein, lift weights, they're like, oh, I don't want to turn into like the logo, like Planet Fitness. It's like, no, like your muscle tone is completely different than a man. Like, yes, you can get buff as a woman, but a lot of times, I mean, we're talking about like bone health, bone density, like I could tell my dad that this weekend. Like, I was like, you have to build up your muscles to support your bones. He's got bad knees. And I'm like, if you don't have any muscles to support that knee that's in bad shape, then you're going to still have a hard time being mobile and walking around. And so like thinking about that as a woman, as we age, like osteoporosis, it's like, oh, let's start taking our supplements and drinking our whole milk. No. Just go lift some weights. Lift some protein, lift some weights.
Lift some weights and eat that protein. And you need that protein to lift the weight so you have a toned body. Because that's what everybody wants. They're like, oh, Cel, I want arms like that, or I want to be toned like that. And like, but you have to eat the protein.
Yeah. You have to eat food.
And lift the weights. Yeah, you have to do both. So that's what we want you to do is do both. Lift weights, eat protein.
Yes.
And follow Jennie Casselman.
Yeah, just do what we tell you to do.
Right. That's it. That's it. So before we like wrap up this podcast, and y'all, this is not the last time we're going to hear from Chef Jennie. Like,
we got too much.
There's too much here. And there's too much that is just like, I don't know, it just lights me up inside because it's everything I care about.
It's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I mean, I've just kind of come to the point in my life where I'm like, I don't care. Use me as a guinea pig. I'll be the example and just put it out there because I don't really have anything to hide. Like, I'm not ashamed of what I've been through to get to where I'm at. And so, like we're saying, there's just so much more to uncover. And
there is,
scaling it back when it comes to women's health.
And the conversation that has been coming up more and more now, because even like when I started at the perimenopause stage when I was 36, nobody was having this conversation. And if you were to say it, they look at you like, really? Hormones? Because I did that as a trainer. Somebody would tell me that their hormones are imbalanced. I'm like, so really that's why you're not seeing results? Like,
you're just being lazy.
Right. You're just being you're just being lazy. So it was very like, it's very freeing now to see the conversations being had, the information being put out there, and being part of the conversation.
Well, and now it's more acceptable because being authentic and real and like putting your ugly out there is more acceptable because of the way we've got all these social media platforms. And so I asked my mom and she was like, oh, I was in my 50s. And I'm like, well, what did you do? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, nothing. You suffered through this with 4 children and like, oh my God, and so I'm like, God, I wish I could have helped her. I mean, obviously I was probably like 10.
Right.
So I'm like, to think that generation of women though, got you're fine, pat on the back, sent them on their way. They had no help with nutrition, no help with fitness, no help with mental health. And so that is what our culture has like made normal. But now I'm so glad that we're able to talk about this. And I'll be real honest, like before I talked about it, I was a little hesitant. So I'm like, are people going to believe me? Because I'm 42. They're like, she's not okay, but she's too young. Well, guess what? I mean, it can happen as early as 36, 35 to 55. And so I think just making people more aware of that, especially women, they might not even be aware. And they go, oh, maybe that's why I hate everybody right now.
Right. It could be completely
it's not because you're a terrible person. It's because your hormones are imbalanced, Like,
and if a doctor tells you that they're not willing to do the blood panel, go to somebody else. Like,
don't go to someone else.
Don't settle for just the one. Well, I went to the doctor and they said I was fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's not you. You have, again, you said this earlier about being an advocate for your health. You have to be the one to just keep saying, no, I need you to do this. And you're taking the power and control for you. And you have every right to, because your health and well-being affects everything in your life.
Absolutely. Same for your kids. And that's a whole nother podcast.
We'll do this or not. We're going to come back and talk about that at
being your own health advocate is huge because guess what? Everybody else is getting paid to be your health advocate. That helps you.
All right. So I have 2 questions I want to ask before we wrap this up, before we go to the kitchen.
Okay.
One is, what are you leaning into right now for inspiration? Like, what is it? What's your go-to? Podcast, book, quote, song? Like, what do we got?
It's everything. It's everything. I get inspired by so many different areas. Like my daughter inspires me to be authentic. She does not care. She's the definition of unbothered. And I didn't even, she doesn't know it, but that's just who she is. And I'm like, God, you give me permission to not care. So my children inspire me. They want to learn more about food and stuff. I get inspired by other women and entrepreneurs like you and like all the different things that you're putting yourself out there to do. And I really am looking to just gather my tribe right now and surround myself with strong, powerful women that know who they are, that know what they want, and we'll figure the rest out as we go. Like, I don't have a plan for 2025. I don't really have a business plan. I told my husband last night, I just wrapped up my latest cookbook, which is a holiday cookbook, Festive Feast. So that'll be available later this week. And I told him, I was like, I'm making this up every single day. I was like, I'm self-made because I make it up every day. But I just look for inspiration around the women that surround me, and I look to see what they're doing and then make it my own, because you can't copy you can copy what other people are doing, but it's never going to be successful if it's not you.
Right.
So yeah, I'm inspired by a lot of different things. And then I got to do like my old 90s, hip hop and R&B that inspires me, gets me jacked up, that gets me in the zone, makes me feel cool. I'm like, that's when I was cool. So that's what gets me like in that zone. If I'm coming on my way here, I was like, listen to Missy Elliott on the way here.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I have a throwback mix that I'll put on like before I get to the gym if I really need to.
Yeah, like what makes you feel good? Like, tap into everything that makes you feel good. Like, I'm doing monthly massages now. I've never committed to that before. And I'm like, I have to make myself be the walking example of what I believe in. And so I have to schedule time to take care of myself. So,
well, you just answered my question about self-care because, because I was going to ask you, I was like, what are you doing right now?
Right. You literally have to put it on the calendar. Yeah. Like I told my friend the other day, it's like, I am a very thoughtful person, but now I have to schedule time to be thoughtful because I'm so busy that I will think about people and it'll be a passing thought through the day. And then I'll go do something else. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I never reached out to that person. And I just wanted to say thank you to them for something that they did or said. And I think that goes a long way as well. It's just like building other people up and recognizing that they're also doing a good job. Like, it doesn't take any time to send somebody a text message and say, hey, by the way, I think you killed it today. Like, you did amazing. I love what you're doing. Can't wait to see what you're doing next, And so I try to do that. And it makes me feel good to help other people feel good about what they're doing. And we all need a little bit of encouragement, especially when you're doing your own thing. You're like, am I doing this right? Is this good? Does anybody care? Right. I do that all the time. Like, I look at my Instagram, like, does anybody really care? Right. Do I really need to make another post? Do I really need to write another recipe? And then somebody will just ding, hey, I really love that. And you're like, okay, yes, people care. I need to keep going. So
that's a big thing. I think I know it's a big thing for me because it's even with this podcast, like I started it 3 years ago and don't even know where it's all going to go. And we've like evolved and it's been a tremendous way for me to connect with people. And
for sure.
But there'll be those, like you said, you'll get that ding of like, hey, I needed to hear that. And so that is like, we need that for each other. We need that constant like encouragement.
We owe each other the positive reinforcement that we didn't get from your KPI results at the corporate job. And like I don't do an internal review on myself, I should. But that's what we owe each other in this community. And that's why I'm just like really rallying around and just finding who I want to belong with. I kind of do the same thing. I've always have leaned on someone else that had more experience than I did to kind of take me with them. And I'm like, okay, if I go with them, then I can't mess up. But I really felt strongly a lot of things in my life completely fell apart at the end of the summer. And it started at the beginning of the summer because we had to make a huge pivot with childcare. My kids were homeschooled. We had a nanny and she moved on. And I was like, what are you going to do now? And so we made a lot of lifestyle changes. And then I left a company that I've been with for almost 4 years, lots of friends, lots of connections. And I had to completely walk away from a lot of things that were my comfort zone to do this by myself. But I felt so strongly that God was saying, this is a solo mission. Mm-hmm. This is not meant for anybody else to come along with you. You got to do this on your own. And I was like, I can't do that.
No, I so relate, because I think even with like, in the past for me too, like it's been the same thing of like we talked about it, where it's like I've always had somebody to lean on, and I've been too afraid to stand on my own.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I'm doing the same exact thing, like I'm on that same mission of like, no, I have to go through this. It's a process.
Yeah.
I have to go through the process alone. There will be opportunities for collaboration.
Absolutely.
But there's a difference between a collaboration and then just tagging on to somebody because I'm too uncomfortable to stand
letting someone else do all the
let them dictate where it's going to go and how it's going to what it's going to look like and how it's going to appear, or being subject to their schedule, their mission, their vision, you know, all those things. But just really going, you know, this is what I really believe in. And I was telling my husband earlier, because he's on the other side of the camera right now, I was telling him earlier about like I have this vision on the inside, and I don't know how it's going to come about, and I don't have like all the I don't have it all worked out yet, but like I know it's coming, and I know the right people are going to be there to plug in where it's needed.
Absolutely. That's where I'm at too. They're like, what's your plans for next year? I'm like, I have no idea. But I mean, I feel like once I surround myself with the right people, I'm in alignment with what I believe and what I want to do, and have the people around you, then, you know, the opportunities will come, the collaborations, partnerships, and you just keep walking in yourself and authentic everything that you believe in and who you want to be, and just kind of comes together. Like that's what's happening this year. It has literally just come together. Everything's fallen in place. So if you were like, what are you doing? I'm like, everything.
What am I not doing is the question.
Yeah. That's what my chiropractor says. What'd you do this week? And I'm like, more like, what didn't I do?
Right. What didn't I get into?
Yeah.
Now, I love this conversation so much. And I know, like we've talked about before, like this is not the last time you're going to hear from Jennie. No. She's got so much to share. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time today to be here and like just sharing your story. Like there's, you know, we don't often get to know the people behind what we see on social or what they've been known for. Yeah. And I think you've really given us like, no, Jennie Casselman is not just a chef. Like you wear the chef coat, but that's not who Jennie Casselman is.
That's just Woodroll.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. And where can everybody follow you on social?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Chef Jennie Casselman. My website is Chef Jennie Casselman. So just Google Chef Jennie Casselman. Cassel, not Cassel. But anyway, that's me. You can find me all over the place.
And then stay tuned because this episode will be dropping and we are getting ready to head to the kitchen. And that will be on the second part of this episode with Chef Jennie Casselman.